the screens, all looking good. There we go. Got some bits and pieces here. So welcome everybody. First of all, welcome to those new folks that have avoided doing all the hard stuff with the finance and the reporting and stuff. And this is obviously quite a popular one, Newsletter Builder. Nice simple one for you today. No stress over this lunch break. What we're going to be looking at is sending newsletters out. And it's a pretty quick introduction, and we're going to get some concepts. And as I mentioned later, we're going to be doing a general newsletter builder section, because this is a huge area. And one of my colleagues is going to be doing a follow-up one in October, where we go into quite a lot of detail, very different bits to do with it. Today, the idea is to go through an agenda and to make sure that everybody's comfortable for using it for all sorts of functions within the whole operational system or the parts that you use it for. So obviously, in the simplest terms, if you're a talent manager or you're in recruitment, you can send newsletters out to staff. If you're in sales or marketing, you can send it out to prospects. If you're in investor relations, you can send it out to people that you want to dig into their pockets to help you pay for whatever went wrong during COVID, and so on and so forth. The agenda today, we're going to go to how to build them, a little bit on formatting, but as I was saying, formatting, graphics, these are things that can take quite a lot of learning. We're going to be looking at mail merges. Now, we've had a look at various different ways to mail merge, but I just wanted to introduce the concept of a list versus a set of criteria that creates a list for you in real time. Profiling in general, metrics, which is very, very important. We all know half of our, well, these days in electronic terms, probably 99% of our marketing is wasted. It'd be really nice to know the 1% that we have to do. And then the follow-up tasks, because a mailing is not a mailing unless you've got some links for where people have to go. And so the follow-up and the preparation are really important. I went to a seminar a while back. I've been doing direct mail for a frightening number of decades. And I went to a seminar a while back with an expert in it. And he said there's no such thing as an expert in direct mail, because it all depends on your company. The mailing you send today, you might say, is it better to send direct mail on Thursday mornings or Friday afternoons? Should I send to these people? What subject line should I use? And so on. The answer is it entirely depends on the audience, who you're sending to. But a lot of general statistics have been done on this subject, because obviously people spend an absolute fortune on it. So it's good to do the research. And they found that pretty as we would love our mails to be, that there's a slight caveat. The subject line is about 35% of is going to determine 35% of the subject of the success of your email shot. The audience and list is going to define about the same, and the actual brand or message, if you've got something good for people, great news, or a fantastic new offer, then if you combine those together, that's going to get you a successful mail shot. But each of them on their own will give you about a third. The design, how pretty it is, it seems will give you 5% better chance if you're lucky. So let's not get het up on about it, and let's make sure that we understand that a lot of doing a really nice newsletter design is about the image of our companies, often to people who have already bought or whatever. I did want to just make a really, really important point. I'd love to get into and spend the entire time doing a demo on graphics, but there are just 2 or 3 really important points here. You must deal with bounce backs. The audience today is mostly staffing audience. You're mostly sending out to a mixture of Hotmail, Live.com, Gmail, and various others. There is a group of email recipients who are dominated by Microsoft, and they are Hotmail, AOL, Yahoo, and hence btinternet.com. And I'd also list in that live.com, outlook.com, and all of the other Microsoft email recipient email name endings. If you do not deal with bounce backs and you send an email to a Hotmail account, and bear in mind, a lot of your staff will only create a Hotmail account temporarily to do a job application, and it might be the 3rd Hotmail account they've done today. If you send to a Hotmail account that has been suspended, in other words, the person hasn't used it for more than 6 months, is the most usual reason it's been suspended. Then if you send, then you'll get a message back to say, please don't send to this again, it's been suspended. If you subsequently send another email, I can't remember if it's one more or if it's 3 strikes so you're out, but you are highly likely to get banned from Hotmail addresses. If you get banned from Hotmail, they share a database with all of the other Outlook and all of the gang that I just mentioned, Yahoo, hence BT Internet, Live.com, AOL. I can't remember why they're involved. They were Comcast or something. I can't remember who bought AOL and why. But you will get banned from all of them. That could potentially be half your staff not receiving emails. So do deal with bounce backs. Have a process in place and somebody who's responsible for dealing with them. The second thing is, when you go in to design your emails, we had a look at this yesterday. This is a genuine email I got yesterday, and I showed it to you, those of you who pitched up for the course yesterday. Always do a test. Probably not a good idea to send your test to your live clients. I, of course, did this yesterday, as you will be aware. And luckily it wasn't a test, it's just I hadn't changed the subject line, probably not unlike this guy. Also, the reason we put hi when we mail merge a first name in front of it rather than dear or sehr geehrte, we always say hi or hello, is because if for some reason you don't have that person's first name recorded on the database, then you can tick the box, which I'm going to show you in a moment, send if blank, and you can make jolly sure that if it is blank, it goes and it just says hi, and the person will just assume it says hi. But if it says hi, Haley, or hi, Bill, then obviously that's even better because it's more personalized. I still have no idea what this is, but probably won't buy one. Now, you also may remember that I mentioned where you put the graphics in an email. So if I just whip through to the email which you got this morning, which will be lurking around here, hopefully, is this it? Yeah. So the one that you would have got this morning, guys, is this one here. And I've put mostly text at the top, and where I've put a graphic, I've put it at the bottom. I used to do a large number of emails. I don't know if there's an example that I can show you, but we used to do a large number of emails. Is this an example? Yeah, with graphics at the top. And you can imagine it looks quite nice. It looks nice on a cell phone. It looks nice with that graphic on top. However, it doesn't, because if you look at what actually arrives, most people will use a preview pane like this, and it doesn't matter if you're in Yahoo, webmail, this is Outlook, and if you're sending business to business, most people are going to look at it in Outlook or some version of Outlook similar. In their preview pane, if they have the preview pane to the right of their list of emails like this, it's going to look like that. If they have it underneath, it's going to look like that. In all cases, the graphic that's come up, and I think this is something from Joanna at Exclusive Sales, whoever she ever was, when I first did this this slide many years ago. You can see that what appears on your screen is rubbish. So I would always start with text. Now, that's again what it looks like if you open up the email and you've just relied on graphics. And we have seen people that just do nothing but get their designer to do a fantastic graphic, and they send it out to people, and what the people received is one big blank square with a little red dot and right click to download pictures on the top. And in many corporate environments now, they aren't going to do it at all. So I'm going to get back to metrics in a moment because I want to make these things at least 80% demo. If we go back to the designer screen, when you click on this, let's just get the right place here. When you click on, where's my, anyone will do, that is, there we go. When you click on your newsletter builder here, I'm actually in a customer's thing here, but it doesn't make any difference. This is something I was working on with COVID testing for a client, but there's no personal data on there. When you click on your newsletter builder, your mailing manager, and remember, if you're not sure what all these menu things do, you can always do that and bring them out. So when you click on your mailing manager here, it brings up, now obviously this is from my internal system, but it will bring up your mailing manager, and it'll bring up these three buttons: create a newsletter, create a mailing, create a report. So if I just move that aside and click on that for now, you'll see what happens. So with these guys here, up it comes, and you've got the three buttons. With this thing, you create a newsletter. Then later on, I'm going to be talking about creating mailing and looking at the reports of who has actually clicked on them. The other important thing is there's a beastie somewhere here called groups, and I won't show this customer's groups, but in my groups, it's got stadiums and security companies and finance brokers and government FOI people and all kinds of groups. One of which is AWL, yes, Accelerate Working Lunch, yes, and all of you are on that group. So if I just get rid of this browser here and move to the one that I'm supposed to be on, if you click on newsletters, you get to the newsletter designer, and you'll be faced with a nice big blank canvas to create your newsletter. And if you want to create your first newsletter, it is really, really simple. All you do is you say hi, and maybe stick in a mail merge field here. So let's use contact first name. How are you today? And you save that. I'm not going to save that, but you would save that, and that is your newsletter. Now, if you take a little bit more time, you can spell it correctly. Not a problem I've ever had, but you can pick a nice font. Most of these fonts are pretty good for newsletters. I would always pick one with no serifs. So Helvetica, Verdana, Arial. Don't have those little serifs, those little feet and curly things like Times New Roman. But do pick a font. Don't leave the fonts open, because otherwise the font will be chosen by the cell phone or the Microsoft Outlook or whatever the person is actually viewing your email in. So I'm going to pick Helvetica, and I'm going to pick font size 5 here, and I am going to color it not the black. I'm going to give it a nice gray kind of thing, and I can carry on typing there. Now all of these little buttons here, you can see why the newsletter builder course could easily be 3, 4, 5 hours, or you get an advanced one, and it could be days or even years of building nice newsletters. All the little buttons here will be familiar to you. They're from a thing called TinyMCE, but they'll be familiar to you if you use Microsoft Word or any kind of semi-graphical or graphical editor. So you've got, obviously you can bold things, you can make them links. So if you want to put a hyperlink behind a picture or a word, you highlight it, you click on hyperlink, very much as you would in an email or a Word document. I think most people now are familiar with these, and it wouldn't be good use of your time to go into these. One tip with hyperlinks of 2 that I would give you: number 1, always open it in a new window. If somebody is opening the hyperlink that you put in here, so there's one that I've got ready. If somebody's opening that hyperlink, you want them to open it in a new window or a new tab, not to completely replace your mail, because you may have other links that you would like them to click upon. The other top tip is, if you want to format this and you don't want it to turn into one of those blue awful underlined links that you used to get years ago, then or what we call the unvisited link, you need to put in this little bit of text decoration is none, and I'll put that on the chat, or one of my colleagues will put that on the chat later. Probably just if I just copy that to the clipboard, Control C, and that goes in the style thing. So if I update that now, I can make this, you can see it's struggling to be a purple visited link, but I can make it sky blue, which is the link color that I'm using in the emails, as you would have seen. Now the question arises, I'll just put this on the chat if I can find the chat. More chat is there. There we are, chat. And so everybody, Control V, should get that funny little bit of code. Don't forget the semicolon on the end to be able to put it in there. Now, the question arises, folks, why should you even have to remember all that stuff? So the next thing I just wanted to come up with is there is a beast called a building block. So if I'm doing a real new mailing, I wouldn't even bother with that. I would either copy, so tomorrow when I do newsletter 14, I will take newsletter 13 because it was about Advanced Report Builder. I will take that and I will save it as save as 15 financial reporting. So I won't take this one as an example. I'll take this as 15 financial reports. So I would then basically change that to the 9th, obviously, and off we go and save. Now, the problem with copying from one email to another is you can miss a paragraph, as I did in one of the early tests last night on the email that you got this morning. And also you can get a thing called cascade errors. So if you've got a part here, so you see here, that bit there doesn't have the font specified. I could start typing in there and it just looks awful. So you can get a user who doesn't take very much care on newsletters, and before you know it, your staff and your customers and your investors and your suppliers are getting newsletters which just look appalling. So we have the concept of a thing called a building block, and this is really a template for templates, and it's to avoid having these cascade errors, but it's also to make sure that the average user who is creating newsletters for your company is constricted by your company's brand direction and by the design that your clever professional designer did, and not the funny comic sans serif and some weird rose that they decide to put in today. So building blocks, if I go into building block mode and leave that alone, then my building block mode contains one which I just did, which is like this, and I can start with that building block and I can start all my newsletters from there. So that way, all of the cascade errors that might have crept in while I was creating newsletters don't create in. I start with a quality building block. Now, this isn't a very high quality building block. A lot of our customers have graphics designers on board who, for £150 an hour, will do a really nice graphical newsletter which is responsive to mobile phones and goodness knows what else. This one isn't bad. It's nice and simple, but you can do a lot better with a building block than this. You can then, using this HTML function, you can then just take their design and pop it straight in, or if you give them a login, they can do that for you. So a lot of our customers do that. If I come out of building block mode and I get back to newsletter mode, and I go to a new mailing, then I can just go here to this button, insert predefined building blocks, and it says which one, and I say I want to start with my signature or Freddie's something. In this case, I'm going to start with selecting a building block, AWLES. It looks like there's another one, asset track your kit. That's a building block as well. So that is going to bring me back my building block, and I'm ready to crack on. So accelerate working lunch, and I could start, instead of making that copy from the reports, which has the report builder manual link built in and all the stuff that you're going to get tomorrow, I could easily say, this is the one that we're going to do for our staffing app one on whenever that is. I think that's maybe Wednesday or Thursday next week. So I won't bother saving that, but I think you can see why there's a lot of training that you could do on newsletters, because there's a lot of functions that you can use. So your designer would, if you wanted to do some layout where you had, for example, a teaser text and a picture, and a teaser text and a picture, and a teaser text and a picture, your designer would probably put that in divs, which are the correct way to do responsive pages in HTML. But if I take the one that I did, wherever it's gone, what was that one? Stadium maintenance app might be a good idea. So if I look at this one here, I was just going to introduce you to the concept of tables. So in this one here, if I just show you the preview, what I have done for the Stadium maintenance app, which is like, if anybody is interested, no, nobody's interested here. For the Stadium maintenance app, I've got little teaser links like this, where you click more to find out more. And I've got pictures which I've popped in of stadiums, which I've found in free stadiums and stuff, pictures, and a call to action. So this is a marketing email we stuck out, and it was quite successful. Um, so the basic idea here is to create a table, and I'll show you how to do that. If you take a new mail shot, you can format a table. And again, you can read on W3 Schools or anything how to create and use tables in HTML. It's not the purpose of this tutorial to teach you about HTML. There's lots more to teach you on this. But you can basically just insert a table here. So I tend to center it to start off with, but it doesn't matter. So if you insert a table like this, it'll say how many columns, how many rows do you want? And I'm going to go, let's say 2 columns by 5 rows, like this. I always put in 5 or 10 cell padding. So what that does is it means you don't have to put lines between your columns. You don't have to draw lines. The eye draws the lines for you. And I might just make the width, I don't know, 600. So there's my table. And I can put in title here. I can make it nice and big, and I can merge that, and I can center it. So if I merge those cells there, then that column becomes 1. I can center the text in there. And obviously what I'd probably do is give it a nice color and make it flipping huge so that it looks like a title. And that one there, I'd probably put the, what do you call it, the signature in there, and I'd merge it again. And the others, I'd put pictures in here. For those of you who don't know how to add pictures, just like if you've ever done any WordPress editing or Microsoft Word or anything, there's normally a little icon where you insert a picture and it says what picture do you want to insert. Now luckily I've got a whole bunch of pictures in here already, so I can just pop that one in like that. So there's one of my pictures, and I can type some text in here. And what I would probably also do is I'd probably highlight the cells, and I would say in the cell properties, I want everything to be top aligned. That way you can see the text is always up there. I would then probably take all of this text, make it something like Arial or Helvetica or something again that was not serifed, because serifs look awful on screens. And Bob's your uncle, you're away with it. I changed the font, and then if you look at these gaps here, I just put a whole load more text in there. Something that often looks nice is if you use this font here. I don't know if I've got a whole bunch of text I can use somewhere, but if you use this thing, then it creates a hard margin. So if I just Control C, there we go. I've taken the whole Control Z, managed to cut a whole load of text. Control C, so if I'm just trying to Control V, right, so if I just take all of that, not sure what that great big gap is there, probably managed to put a tab in there or something. There we go. So if I just, it's because I've got very, very big words in there. I should have done more spaces. There we go. So if I do that, there we go. There we are. So now if I take a preview of it, you can see that that first one, the teaser text, there's plenty of space between the title, there's plenty of space between this and this, and each of the pictures will then line up, and also all the text will line up. Give it a try. Give it a try on your system, I would suggest. But be aware that doing this kind of graphics and newsletters is a real time vampire thing, and you're better off spending a few quid with a proper graphics designer to get you a nice template to use. And don't, whatever you do, use me, because I'm appalling at these things. Now, once you've done your mailings, once you've done your newsletters, you need to do a mailing. And the mailing is exactly what you would expect. If I switch off advanced options for now, I'll just take you through all these little buttons. So because there's lots of flexibility, there's lots of buttons. The top box is the money box. Who do you want it to go from? I don't know if it comes out as accelerate training when you receive it or support. If you're used to receiving from this email, your email system may say, hey, that's those guys from accelerate support. But I've said that the soft name that I'd like to come out from this is accelerate training. Looks like I've got a few spaces in there as well. I wasn't aware of those. Yeah, it's gone. Good. So then there's the email that it's going from, and there will be rules as to which emails that you send from. If you send from Bill Gates at Microsoft.com or whatever, there may be lots of systems which will not allow that to go through. If you send from through our servers with your name, we will have said, yes, your name can relay through our servers, your company emails. But then when it arrives, we also have to make sure that the SPF and the DKIM is done by whoever looks after your DNS, whether that's you or a third party. So we normally communicate with them to make sure that all of the security of email is in place so that our emails have the right to send on your behalf. Then you put the subject line in, and bear in mind the subject line is 35% of the likelihood of your mail actually arriving or actually getting opened once the customer sees it. And we all have experience of this. The other thing is who's sending it, as we said, and what the brand and the message are and so on. So if you get something that is clearly about Viagra, telephone systems, recruitment agents, and you know the list, then you're probably just going to delete it. If it comes from one of you guys, I'm sure your customers will immediately read it with excitement. But that's obviously, to be serious, that's obviously based on the fact that you build your brand and you have interesting news for them and good offers and so on. So then I've picked the newsletter that I want to send, and it would not be the first time in my life where I've got a perfect subject line and I've managed to send Charlotte's test or the previous day's newsletter instead of today's newsletter. And that brings up the subject of do test. So we've got the AWS group, which is all you guys. We also have another group, which is Accelerate Test Group. And you can imagine that's got me, Caroline, Jack, Charlotte, and 6 or 7 other people. And then every morning I come in and say, was the test email that I sent out last night okay? Everybody says yes. And then everybody admits they actually haven't read it. So you have to have your procedures in place. Sending out emails to your suppliers, your investors, your staff is a team effort. Get a good designer to do it and make sure the team actually do read the email. But we virtually never send anything out without checking it with colleagues first. Set it as active and it's ready to go. Now, clearly, I'm not going to send this out to you guys again, but there are then a bunch of advanced options. So one of them is, when do you want it to run? If you want it to go every day or every week, you can do that. And we do have one customer who destroyed all of her competition. She used to work for us in the mornings and a taxi company in the afternoon, and she introduced the newsletter builder to the taxi company. And she basically sent this one out, hey, do you want to start an account with us? And would you like to use our taxis? And she sent it out and she just set it to go every Wednesday, same mail shot every Wednesday. And one week she got Hewlett Packard to sign up for their account. The next week she got Dala Rowney, which is another big customer locally. And then she also won a huge amount. She then had lots of corporate work and she had lots of airport work, because in this area there's lots of airport work. But she managed to also, in the middle, she had a gap from about 7 o'clock, because the airport work in this area is about 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. The corporate work starts at about 10 or 11 as you pick people up from airports. But there's a load of stuff in the middle where she had this gap between about 7 and 9, and she managed to win loads of business in that by winning the local authority. So she was taking, various kids to schools. There were people who had travel challenges, or people that travel a long way to school because they've been kicked out of one school and they have to go to the PNR or whatever, PRN, people referring, PRU. So this is quite a useful thing to be able to do, but you can also just schedule one, not just regular mailings. You can just schedule one to go on a Tuesday, because your research has shown that Tuesday is a good time to send these things out. Or it may be that you don't want to announce something until next Tuesday morning, but you're on holiday then, so you schedule it to go out. Make sure the scheduler is working. Some people have the scheduler switched on, some people don't have the scheduler switched on. So before you risk it, just do a test. Most people's schedulers go every hour and look for emails that are being scheduled. You can publish to various social media. To do that in the newsletter, you have to create a web page. So let's say your newsletter says, "Hi, Jimmy," and the rest of the newsletter. You need to create a second copy of it where you take the "Hi, Jimmy" out and any mail merge fields. That then creates a web page which you can then publish to the knowledge base, and you can publish knowledge base web pages to your website or to Twitter or whatever. So that's what publishing to the knowledge base is. In our case, we've got loads and loads of different bits and pieces in our knowledge base. I'd probably put this one to something like technical notes or training material or something like that. That would go into our knowledge base. And some of these have corresponding pages which are published on our website. This is the most important one though, send if blank. So if we didn't have we have all your first names in this case, but in many mail shots we don't have the first names of the people concerned. We've just got inquiries, and the mail is info at, I don't know, Blackburn Rovers FC or something. So don't forget to click on that tag. So that's the mailings. You then basically either schedule it, or if I switch off scheduling, you would then just make sure it's all correct. And in this particular case, I can, if I just hit save, which I probably shouldn't. I should probably say, I should probably take this test one to do it on as a better idea. So what I can do once I've saved it is I can review the contacts in it. That previous list that came up would have been you guys. So these are the internal contacts. When you create your test group, and do please create test groups, make sure you've got stuff going to BT Internet, Yahoo, Gmail, all of the different kinds of things, so that you can pick it up and you can test it on your phone. So somewhere around here on my Gmail account, if I can find my Gmail in here somewhere. Nope, let's just go here. Gmail. There we are. So somewhere on my Gmail account, I will have received that email, and I can just pick that up here somewhere. And is that it? Yes, it is. So this is my cell phone here, and you can see that I've got the email, and it looks nice. So I'm happy that it works on my email. I'm happy that it works if I go into a browser and I test it somewhere around here. There's rickmarengo@accelerate.com. There we go. So I can look at it on Microsoft Outlook 2016 and make sure it looks fine in the preview and in the under preview, right preview, and so on and so forth. So test before you send these things out. Lastly, you can get the reports. So if I go to, for example, the test account in here, where I'm not worried about private stuff, I can see that there are some people who are very diligent at looking at the email. And let's not go into, here we go, who they are. And I can see who has actually clicked on some links as well. So if I go here, I can see that whoever this person is has clicked on some links to check that they all work, to check that the manuals all work. So you can test, and you can also test the testers. So then that brings us on to the subject of metrics. Obviously, the idea of the newsletter is it goes out and it achieves your objectives. Now, it could be that you want to make your customers more aware of something, or you want to tell your staff about new shifts that there are coming up. So nice and simple. You've got the metrics that I just showed you, but in addition to that, you would hope that it had an effect. Let's say you were doing a marketing email and you had links to a particular page. You would hope that you got an effect like this. This was a system where we did it with a marketing consultancy many years ago, and they bought our system and they did newsletters which they would send out, and they did no newsletters whatsoever, and then suddenly they started to get lots and lots of spikes, and you can see the difference with customers looking at their information back in those days. That was in 2009. We've been doing these newsletters, these electronic newsletters, for a while. So just to summarize, plan maybe even have, especially if it's marketing, an idea for the next 2 or 3 months on what you're actually planning to put out for your newsletters. Make sure your lists are right. If your lists are wrong, you're going to have a problem, especially if it's lists to staff and they're going to Hotmail accounts that don't exist. And send a test to your colleagues. Then don't send the test to the customers, although I always do that, but I'm never too worried or embarrassed, because if experience is my guide, you get just as many um, leads as from sending out a screwed up test than sending out the real mailing. But then send the real mailing, and then don't forget to observe the basic marketing numerate discipline of analyzing the results. Who did it land with? And then you can improve it and feed that around again. It's a team game. Involve others in the design. How do you like this design? Is this okay? Involve professionals in doing the design, obviously, and make sure that others are also bought into the idea that the list is important. Every time Sally leaves XYZ company, make sure her email is taken off, and if Billy takes her place, make sure Billy's mail is put on. And that's especially important in the last 2 months and over the next 6 months, because we're going to see a lot of staff turnover. We don't know what the new normal is going to be like, and I suspect, as you do, there's going to be some surprises. So the concepts we've been through today include the mailing list, making sure that is good and there's a good target criteria. Obviously, we've dealt with import of lists earlier on. Make sure you tag the lists so that you can see how good that imported data was. HTML is a huge subject. Go to W3 Schools, come on our training. We'll be running some free seminars on that subject for Newsletter Builder, where we go through step by step with labs for people. Get some nice pictures. Make sure the IPR, you're allowed to use the IPR, obviously. Very easy to put on. You just click that little tree icon and stick it on again. Mailing templates. Building blocks are templates of mailing templates, which I'll look at in just a moment. Don't forget the proofread. Don't forget to get your team to proofread, your colleagues. Make sure your boss signs it off. Make sure it's in line with both compliance, GDPR, obviously. Make sure that the statements made are correct, and make sure it's interesting. Make sure people don't want to unsubscribe. Make sure that if you've got opportunities to put it on web pages, social media, plug it in through your Hootsuite. If you use Hootsuite to publish social media, and don't forget to measure, because you can't manage what you can't measure. I'm especially talking, I think, to people who are using this for marketing or investor relations or supplier chain relations. So lastly, building blocks will prevent you from making cascade errors. Start with a good designer, and I can't emphasize this enough. This is not Sally in the office who likes doing graphics because it's easier than doing proper work. This is a professional designer who's done a foundation year in a school where they sack people throughout the year for not working hard. There's 100 people who apply for every place, and then they do 4 years of graphics design, and then they probably had 10 years of experience in an agency before working for you or whatever. Get it done by somebody that knows what fonts to use and has lovely pictures, and you know that the designs are not copyright to somebody else. So that's newsletter building. I have one other fact on newsletter building before just talking about what's happening tomorrow, and it's this. It comes from a question that somebody asked yesterday, and I just need to go and grab. I think I've got it on Chrome here, if I can find where Chrome's hiding. Right. Yes, here we go. So what I wanted to show you was, many of you will be using Application Forms Builder. We also have a way of building application forms for customer inquiries. So this data is not done in a type form or a jot form or whatever funky forms there are that you can get on WordPress sites these days. This is a WordPress site of one of our customers in the finance area. And if you go to their site, where is their site? Okay, contact us. So not that one, this one here. You will get this application form, and when you fill that in, that inquiry goes straight through to the database, and they check the inquiries log each morning, but effectively that goes straight through the database with what the person wants to finance, what kind of an asset it is. You know, I want to finance a new digger dumper or 5 new lorries, or we haven't seen coaches for a while for obvious reasons. Maybe we'll start seeing public transport again, but they would say what the asset is, how many hundreds of thousands they want to borrow, and so on and so forth. However, they also have partners. So these guys here sell motor caravans, which are typically 60 or £100,000, and people can be asked by the partner to fill it in, but it actually goes direct to their site. So this is their partner, this motor caravans folks, and they would put this link on their site. Likewise, I think there is another one for another partner here. So the point about this, Control V, and I think they are something like JMP Motorsport. There's quite a few of these. So it's the same form on their site, different graphic, different graphic, obviously, and a different blurb to it. Come along, come along. So you can see this here, the graphics and the wording is different between these two, but the idea is that somebody can go to this invited by the partner to be able to fill it in. But you can also, the partner can do a mail shot with that link in it, and you can see how many people clicked in it, but they will also be aware how many people eventually filled in and said they would like to buy such and such a car, and they have 10 grand and they'd like to borrow 20 grand or whatever it is. So that's Newsletter Builder. Do give it a try, create a newsletter, make sure it goes to your colleagues if you haven't done it before, or 3 or 4 of your personal emails. It's very easy to create a group. If you create a group in any of the web fast tracks, what's this one, this new demo, I believe here. There we go. So if you look on new demo, you can either create it from a list, I just grab that there, or you can go into search here. So you can easily just put in the email names that you want. So I've been looking for Rick at Yahoo for another reason here, but you can search on 3 or 4 email names. You can then save it as a group. So you can put in some search criteria here. So for example, Rick would be an example. And yeah, any name beginning with Rick. There we go. Add that, delete that. And I think that brings back some people. So there's a bunch of test emails here. And once you've done that, you can then save that. And it says, what are you going to call it? Rick test. And there's my Rick test email group, which is then available for me in my mailing manager on this system. In mailings, I can then choose that Rick test email group to send it out. And if I save, obviously I need some other stuff like a newsletter and stuff. But if I then do that and I save, example, then you can see I can review the contacts, and there's all these Rick testing people here. And then I can hit start mailing, which I'm not inclined to do. So that's a rapid introduction to newsletter building.